Trump said once again that there's been progress with Iran. But is that really the truth, or is it just another soulless post? And what all of this has to do with the entire crypto and stock market that's coming up now. Hi, I'm Marius from 10x Analytics, and my channel is about data and not about hype. And why the data is super interesting again today, we're getting to that right now. But as always, first grab yourself a coffee and relax. Leave a like for me, and then we'll get right into it. Let's start the analysis together and go through my 10x dashboard. The most important data and key figures: Bitcoin dominance is actually still consistently high, meaning that Bitcoin is naturally stronger than altcoins. Crypto market cap versus stock market cap. You can see, right, the crypto market cap is tiny compared to stocks. That means the potential for crypto as an asset class is still massive. Altcoin Season Index, which shows whether altcoins are ultimately performing better than Bitcoin. That is not the case. We are still in Bitcoin season. Then fear and greed for crypto and stocks. Fear and greed basically says whether there's fear in the market or greed. So whether everyone wants to jump back in, and FOMO is kicking in. Quite exciting here too. Crypto is still stuck in fear. And with stocks, it's more about greed, which has arrived now, especially in the field of AI. Then how are the assets looking? Let's take a look first. Oil is naturally rising slightly again. Uranium stayed about the same. But let's just do this here. Boom, 7 days, that's a bit more meaningful. Oil rose this week because there were tensions again in the Strait of Hormuz, let's say. Uranium up slightly, gold a bit in the red, silver in the red, and gas in the red. The macro data, Dow Jones in the plus positive, the DAX in the plus. Actually S&P 500 also in the plus, and Nasdaq too. Euro versus US dollar slightly in the red. Let's move on to the top 5 stocks. Nvidia lost some ground, but it had already risen massively. Google slightly up, Apple slightly up, and Microsoft slightly down. Amazon in the plus. So everything on average is rather positive. In the crypto sector this past week, it turned out that we had a massive drop again. Bitcoin minus 2.10%, Ethereum almost 7%. Developers actually exited there, or rather some sold their Ethereum. So things are a bit heated there, I'd say. XRP also lost quite a bit this week, and Solana too. Generally, not a good week on the crypto market. Bitcoin inflows for ETFs are actually positive, led by the BlackRock ETF. So that's quite a significant sign. Once again, institutions are buying while retail is selling. The Fed is the central bank of America and essentially sets the interest rates. And we're still here, let's say, at the same rate as we were last week. The meeting is, as I said, on the 17th of next month. There's still a bit of time. And most people say that there will continue to be a pause. In plain English, that means it's rather neutral, maybe even bearish for cryptos, since they are risk assets. Then last week, exciting winners were small caps. I also analyzed small cap stocks, for example, but also small cap altcoin gems. In my 10x Elite, I always post them there whenever I find something exciting. And when I personally add them to my watch list, for example, then all the members who are in my 10x Elite get to see it. You can find more info down in the video description. In any case, there are some exciting projects here. I'll be going into some of them again soon in my 10x Elite. With low cap altcoins, it's also quite exciting. Polkadot is back in the mix, quite positive, and Stellar. And Plume is also strong. I've done another analysis on that. I'll link it for you up here. Otherwise, generally with the low cap altcoins, some exciting ones that you know. Superverse, for example. I think I've also analyzed that before. So that's also extremely exciting. If you're currently looking for a good hardware wallet in credit card format, extremely simple, Tangem surprised even me, then there's a 10% discount right now. Either you go through my link on my website or you ultimately just enter the code 10x. Then you get the 10% discount. It's my affiliate partner, and I can only tell you that it's really worth it. Tangem is one of the simplest hardware wallets, I think, that's on the market. So now we're moving on to the chart analysis as usual. But first, I'd like to introduce my free 10x dashboard, which I've newly developed. You don't have to register. You can just go there and use it daily for your analyses. The dashboard simply has the advantage of providing bundled data once again. First, the top 10 crypto developments. And also what's quite exciting, we have the fear and greed index here, which is also important. We have the Bitcoin Season Index / Altcoin Season Index. Then how far away the Bitcoin halving still is. And then finally, a data-based assessment. It's extremely exciting. I'll move this a bit so you can see it better. Exactly, that's where the halving is. And everything together is then calculated in the background. And then a data-based assessment is simply made as to what this refers to now, whether we're more bullish or bearish. So otherwise there are many other things here. For example, up here, if you go to tools, I have a crypto exchange comparison here, but also a hardware wallet comparison. I have a DCA calculator with my 10x indicator. And if you're starting out, you can also get some impressions here on how to actually start in the crypto sector, finding exchanges. First, the importance of putting your cryptos on a hardware wallet, then a tax tracking tool, which I personally use myself, and of course TradingView. You can take a look at everything. As I said, it's free without registration. The link to my website and the dashboard is in the video description. And now we're really getting into the chart analysis. And here we are already in the chart. As always, we start with Bitcoin, of course. With Bitcoin, it actually looked quite exciting. We had a small red dot here, you see. That means a bearish trend reversal. Then we also went down. Let's take a look. That was about there. Yes, that was the low point here at almost 10%. By the way, anyone who follows me on X knows that I regularly make chart posts, especially for Bitcoin and regarding my 10x indicator. And of course in 10x Insider, the free membership where I actually share my views on the market, but also exciting altcoins and stocks as well, of course. Yes, at the moment it looks like we actually had a strong counter movement here. That was around here when it was said today by Trump that Iran and the USA are moving closer, but then at the same time he denied it again. I'm curious to see. For me, the whole thing is a bit of a puppet show, but well, that's just my opinion. Let's move on with the chart analysis. With Bitcoin, it looks like this now. If you look down here, we're slowly entering the oversold zone now. It's getting interesting for me here. Anyone who follows my channel knows that when the big green dot appears on the 10x indicator, it gets exciting for me personally because that means we're in an oversold zone. In plain English, we have a possible bottoming out. And then I personally always consider whether to make a slow DCA entry now. In any case, for Bitcoin, it actually doesn't look too bad at the moment. Nevertheless, I'm extremely cautious at the moment. I rather think that we'll go down significantly further, at least until the end of the year. Let's take a look at all the altcoins as always. It's actually such an exciting development, right? If you look at this here, we formed a small green dot here. First of all, it means that we have a possible bullish trend reversal. So it could perhaps still go up for altcoins in the short term. But as I said, if the global political situation worsens again, and if Bitcoin is pulled down as a result, then it ultimately pulls altcoins down too. Let's take a look. Ethereum has formed something extremely interesting. If you look at this here, two big green dots, it means we were oversold here. So basically an extremely exciting zone at the moment. But there too, if Bitcoin and the global economic situation don't play along, then the chart is, let's say, not 100% valid. That's why you always have to look at both a little bit. The overall global situation, but also the chart. And then we come to Solana. It looks rather neutral there. We had a big red dot here, you see. And then, by the way, we went down almost 15% here. Currently rather in no man's land. Then Kaspa. How does it look with Kaspa? Similar picture. We had another significant sell-off here, but we've stabilized quite a bit, but I'm still staying cautious for now. There's no other news here either. No little green dot, but rather still in bearish mode. Then internet computer, things look different there. We had a small green dot here and have already pushed up slightly a bit, 3, 4, or 5%, suggests for now a small bullish counter movement. So quite positive for the time being. Supra, how does it look for Supra? We had a big red dot here and then saw a massive sell-off of 33%. Pretty bad. Here we've just reached the middle range. That means basically there's still plenty of room to fall. So everyone be careful with Supra, purely data-based and chart-wise. I'd be very cautious there at the moment. Then XRP, how's it looking there? Well, it looks similar to Ethereum and Solana. First, we had a massive downward peak here, but then it was bought back up because some are speculating now that the rally will continue after all. In the short term, that's possible, but in my view, not by the end of the year. I think we'll see another higher bear market low. Then VRA. It doesn't look so good there. We formed a small red dot, meaning a bearish trend reversal. I'd be really careful with VRA right now. Now we come to the stock section. Nvidia is leading the way if you think about it. If we look here now, we had a massive rally a big green dot formed here. As I said, it was partially sold off here. And then we ended up here. A big green dot means, yeah, it is an oversold zone, so there is potential for bottoming. After that, we pushed up by about 40%. For a stock, that's quite massive. But watch out now, we formed a big red dot here, meaning we're now overbought. In other words, many people have bought. FOMO was back again. Dangerous zone. Then we saw a sell-off too, 6.5%. But the move isn't over from a database perspective. It could go further. Here too, if you look at the range, up here is the, let's say, overbought area. We haven't even reached the middle range yet. Theoretically, there's still room to fall, so I'd be careful with Nvidia. Then MicroStrategy, also quite interesting. By the way, I post on X chart analyses regularly, hence the drawing. And here it looks like this. We had a small red dot, bearish trend reversal. After that, we went down 17%. Well, it's just that MicroStrategy naturally correlates very strongly with Bitcoin. Logically, because they've invested heavily in Bitcoin. Here as well, rather bearish from a medium-term perspective. Tesla, also an exciting stock. And I naturally posted on X here as soon as that little green dot appeared. It pushed up a bit after that. Generally a positive chart here because we're not in the fully overbought zone yet, more in the neutral range, so there could still be some upside for Tesla. Then Palantir technology is also very exciting, I think. Right here, this was on the 15th of May, a small green dot formed, followed by a 5% move up. Generally though, you have to be careful here. We're slowly moving back into this middle range and could be rejected. Then SoFi Technologies, also an extremely exciting project. I'll probably publish an analysis report in my 10x Elite soon. But how does it look on the chart? We had a small green dot here, a possible bullish trend reversal. It went up slightly, but then sold off again. Be careful here too. The situation is rather suboptimal. Then Roblox, also an extremely exciting project and very interesting technically, if you think about it. We got a big red dot here, so watch out, watch out. The top might have been reached now. Then we still pushed up slightly here, but we never broke through this again. After that, we went down almost 72%, which is extreme for a stock. But then here, excitingly, a big green dot formed because we were in an oversold zone. And after that, let's take a look. We pushed up about 16%. The move isn't over yet either. Theoretically, there's still room to the upside into these areas here. So it's exciting right now, but the big move has already been missed. Anyone who had entered here would, of course, have caught a good move. Then what do we have next? Boom. First, let's remove the drawing again. Rubrik, also an exciting stock, but technically in an absolute risk zone. We formed two big red dots here. So we are massively overbought. Here too, we're more at the top of the range. I would be extremely cautious right now. We still have a lot of room to the downside. Arista Networks, also an exciting stock. How does it look there at the moment? Well, if you think about it, we reached our all-time high here. That was right here. Then a big red dot appeared indicating an overbought zone. Then we fell 24%. Just now we had a small green dot, a possible bullish trend reversal. It actually pushed up 10% after that. Again, it's actually an interesting zone because we formed a small green dot, which is a positive sign. So there is still some potential for an upside. Finally, let's take a look at one more important thing, and that is gold and silver. Here, yes, a new all-time high. The 10x indicator has formed a large red dot, which means an overbought zone. And after that, we were pushed down. Here, exciting by the way, large green dot, we also went up. Now, however, we are currently rather in a further bearish trend reversal. Silver, a similar picture actually. Here, all-time high, went down. Here, the market was oversold, so it went up. Now we are seeing a bearish trend reversal, meaning it has started to go down. This is also a dangerous zone here, in my opinion. If you want data-based insights without all the hype, then please subscribe to my channel now. I do analyses on stocks, on cryptos, and news videos like this one. Please subscribe to my channel, and then I'll see you in the next video. I'm linking another video here that is extremely exciting. Thanks for watching. And then I'll see you in a bit.